Let yourself be great. Unleash your soul. Take your passion, make it happen. That's the goal.
And welcome to another edition of Two Steps Ahead podcast, encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom. Trustworthiness. Do we have a crisis of trust? A crisis of trustworthiness? When you think about it, trust is a fragile thing because it's built on belief. Let's say I trust you. I'm believing something about you that I can't prove every second of the day. I'm believing that your words mean something. I'm believing that your promises are not just sounds coming out of your mouth. I'm believing that your loyalty is real. I'm believing that you will protect what I share with you. I'm believing that you will not use my weaknesses against me. And I'm believing that the person you show me is the person you really are. And that's what makes trust so powerful. But, and there's always a but, it is also what makes trust breakable. You see, trust requires a bit of vulnerability. It requires people to lower their guard, to stop checking, stop investigating, stop questioning every motive. It's also a feeling of, I'm safe with you. You're safe with me. Well, what happens when that safety gets violated? What happens when the person who said, you can trust me, becomes the reason why you struggle to trust anyone? And that is where the trust crisis begins. Because betrayal isn't just the breaking of a promise, it breaks a person's sense of safety. It does not just say someone made a mistake. No, it says maybe I trusted the wrong version of them. No, it says maybe what I believed was never really true. So it doesn't just say, oh, someone made a mistake, or maybe I just trusted the wrong version of them. It says maybe what I believed was never really true. It says maybe I gave access to someone who did not value what I placed in their hands. And then, of course, it asks, what else is a lie? What did I miss? Was I foolish for believing them? Can I believe them again? Can I believe anyone again? And suddenly, the peace that you have gets replaced with suspicion. The relationship that used to feel safe now feels like a place where you have to keep your guard up. The leader you once believed is now sound. Or put it this way, the leader that you once believed in now sounds like it's someone who's just managing an image. The institution that once felt stable is now feeling like something protecting itself. The friend who once felt close now feels like someone who you have to measure every word around. And that is what broken trust does. It changes the atmosphere. And the dangerous thing is that when enough people experience it, and they experience that broken trust enough times, distrust becomes the normal. And when society reaches that point, trust does not just become fragile, it becomes rare. Trust does become rare. That's why trustworthiness matters so much. You think about relationships. I mean, you see it on TV, maybe you see it in social media where someone suspects the other person of cheating. And so now they're suspicious about it and they have to go around trying to prove whether or not their suspicions are true. Before, it was no big deal. They would go out, the significant other would go out. No big deal. Never thought twice about where you were going, what you were doing. But then you have suspicion that maybe something else is going on with somebody else. And now you question their motives. Why are you going out? Where are you going? And it plays out on TV in various forms and different episodes and movies and so forth. But it becomes a trustworthiness. See, the crisis of trustworthiness is not just lying. It's character. Character is something we talk about a lot on the show. It's about whether people are willing to be honest, be consistent, always showing up, being accountable for what they've done, whether good or bad, humble, loyal, and responsible when it costs them something. Many people want the benefits of trust without the burden of being trustworthy. Are you getting the sense that perhaps trust and trustworthiness a little bit different? They want access without responsibility. They want influence without integrity. They want forgiveness without change. They want loyalty without honesty. They want authority without accountability. But does trust really work that way? I don't know about you, but trust is earned, to me anyways, trust is earned slowly. It builds up over time, maybe through time, experience, and interaction with people. But how quickly is it lost? Is it broken? It's built up in drops, right? And then all of a sudden, the bucket's full. You start another bucket, and that trust is there. And then all of a sudden, in a single instance, the buckets just dump over. So, trust is earned slowly, lost quickly. It's built in drops, but lost in buckets. And one single betrayal can damage what it took years to build up. And that's something that's important to realize. A lot of people go into relationships, whether personal, whether business, societal, of any type, and they think that trust is already there. Just kind of like last time we talked about respect. People think that respect is automatically there, when really respect is something that should be earned from both sides. Trustworthiness is the same way. You prove trust, you build trust by being trustworthy. So as we get started, let's put you through the ringer, the trustworthiness test. Examine yourself as we go through these questions and see. And you can kind of be honest with yourself and see just how trustworthy you might be. And the more honest you are with yourself, the more real you can see how your trustworthiness is. So can people believe what I say? Ask yourself that. Can people believe what I say? If you think, yeah, they can believe what I say, how good for you. If it's, yeah, most of the time, okay, well, what's wrong with the other times? If it's some of the time, well, then maybe your trustworthiness off the top is already low. But can people believe what I say? Do I keep my promises even when it costs me? And that cost could be something as simple as, oh, I've made plans, but maybe some better plans came up. But no, I'm going to stick to my original plans because that's my word and I'm keeping it. Or whatever else it might be. Yes, I'll cover your shift for you and stay extra as you go off and deal with whatever you do. But then everybody at work's like, hey, we're going to the bar. Happy hour. You want to come? You made this commitment to stay and cover somebody's shift, but then you decide to check out. Or do you stay? Do I tell the truth even when it makes me look bad? Ooh, truth. That's a hard thing to come by in these day and age. Not a lot of people telling the truth. A lot of people covering their own backsides. Do I admit when I'm wrong? That seldom happens in society today, but you can ask yourself that. Do I protect private information? Loose lips sink ships. Do I treat people the same way when they're not useful to me? Interesting question. Do I change my behavior after apologizing? So maybe something isn't going right. You apologize. Do you change that behavior or do you continue to do it? Do I demand trust that I have not earned? Do I use people's vulnerability against them? Manipulation. Do I have the same character in private that I present in public? If you ask yourself those questions, and depending upon the answer, might determine your trustworthiness. I mean, trust sometimes is given too freely. Solicitor knocks on the door, going to sell you something, calls you up on the phone, going to sell you something. I've got the answer to all your problems. Or maybe you go to a church or some religion and you give them their trust. You give them your trust right away without checking out the scene, whatever it is. But how is your trustworthiness? Do people believe what you say? Do you keep your promises? Do you tell the truth when it makes you look bad? Do you admit when you're wrong? Do you protect private information? Do you treat people the same even when they're not useful to you? Do you change your behavior after apologizing? Do you demand trust when it's not earned? Do you use people's vulnerability against them? Do you have the same character in private that you present in public? And if we're honest with ourselves, we are probably lacking in a few of those areas. I don't think any of us, including myself, is at 100% all the time. There may be some ups, there may be some downs, there may be some consistencies. You may pass the test all the time, but perhaps every once in a while, maybe you do drop the dime on someone. Maybe you do break a promise. Maybe you do treat people a little differently depending upon what benefits you. And that is why we have the 6 biggest problems people and society have when it comes to trustworthiness. Now, just to review, remember, trust is the belief or confidence in someone or something. You can trust in the fact that when you sit in a chair, it won't break. You can trust in the fact that when you go to your car and you turn it on, it's going to start. You don't go to the car and turn it on and hope it doesn't start or think, is it? Maybe, maybe not. You trust it's going to start. You pull up to the slot machine. Now you're hoping you're going to hit 777s or whatever game you play, right? You can't trust it to spit out coins, at least when it did back in the old days, the ding, 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 ding. But it's the belief or confidence in someone or something. Trustworthiness refers to the qualities that make someone or something deserving of that trust. So now we're dealing with the person and not just the belief. The person, not just the belief. So trustworthiness is not the same as being liked. It's not the same as being charming. It's not the same as being talented or powerful or popular or persuasive. Now, some of those could lead to trustworthiness, but it's not specifically the same thing. Here is the core of what trustworthiness is about. Trustworthiness means people can rely on your character, your word, your actions, and your judgment. A trustworthy person is someone whose behavior says, you can count on me when it matters. A trustworthy society is built on the same idea, whether it's families, friendships, marriages, churches, schools, businesses, governments, teams, communities. All those entities cannot survive without trust. And when trust breaks down, everything becomes harder. Communication gets tense. Relationships become guarded. Leadership loses credibility. People become suspicious. They become defensive and disconnected. Have you ever experienced that? So the first problem we're going to delve into is confusing image with integrity. Now, what do you mean by that? Well, think of The Wizard of Oz. Do you know it? Sometimes I have to question people about pop culture because I might throw out a pop culture reference and people are like, what are you talking about? Because we've moved on. And some people might not know. Some people might not know The Wizard of Oz. In fact, for example, we were doing a study the other day on Hurricane Katrina, a little group reading on Hurricane Katrina with some middle schoolers. They had no idea about Hurricane Katrina, not one clue as to anything about it. Well, if you were around during the time Hurricane Katrina came, you would never forget it. So that's kind of the point with pop culture. If you know it, you get it. If you don't, well, then maybe I'm getting too old. But The Wizard of Oz, when it comes to confusing image with integrity, okay, he presents himself as the great and powerful Oz, wise, almost godlike. But behind the curtain, what was he? Just a man using illusion to control how others see him. Image. It's the perfect picture, The Wizard of Oz, is that of image without integrity. Everybody feared the voice, the smoke, the fire, the big presentation. But when the curtain gets pulled back, we find out that the image was bigger than the character. And so what's the point of that? Well, a person can look impressive and still not be trustworthy. Or what about Instagram or other social media influencers, right? That culture of influence. Some people build their entire online identities around perfection, success, maybe wisdom. Maybe they have the health and the faith or their happiness, but they're really hiding behind this persona, and the reality behind the scenes isn't as impressive. So that image that's created is not the same as the consistent character. In fact, what was it? Around February of 25, when TikTok started to kind of fade away before it was resurrected, and people started to become honest, and basically they were admitting that their whole persona was fake and that nothing of it was true. It was just an image for online likes and comments and popularity. It was a modern day Wizard of Oz, wasn't it? So you have people confusing image with integrity. And that's one of the biggest problems with trustworthiness today. People are more focused on looking trustworthy than actually being trustworthy. And actually, you could take that much further and say people are actually more focused on looking, fill in the blank, than they are being, fill in the blank. But in this case, we'll use trustworthy. Image is powerful. There's no doubt about that. Your image is probably one of the most powerful things that we have going on in this world. People build brands on it, right? They have a polished profile. They say all the right words, post inspirational quotes. They present themselves as dependable, as moral, honest, and even caring. But that doesn't prove anything. That appearance doesn't prove anything that's trustworthy, does it? I mean, would trustworthiness require some sort of consistency that someone proves it over and over and over again? Because if you're not careful, people that are manipulative, they could be trustworthy sounding. It can sound like, hey, trust me, but they're really manipulating you. How many people have you stories maybe read, people you've heard, personal experiences where they manipulate you out of something, right? Trust me. This is what's good for you. In fact, just the other day, with all these scandals going on with all this fraud, right? Fraud in California with hospice, fraud in Minnesota with Somalia, the Doge fraud that we heard about, Doge fraud in 2025, right? Well, in the hospice fraud, I was listening to somebody explain it, and they had an older couple, and someone knocked on the door of their house, presented themselves in a trustworthy manner, telling them all about this plan, that if you join this plan and it all looked legit, that they would get taken care of, that money would go to them to help them in their end stage of life, which is kind of where they were. One of them was, and it would help them with the medical needs and the at-home care needs. Sound convincing, trustworthy, the whole thing. They looked the part, they smelled the part, they said the part. So the people bought into it. And then what happened was that person, that entity, stole all their money. Now, it wasn't their personal money from their bank account. It was their Medicaid money. So when they went to purchase products for home care, there was no Medicaid money to cover it. But the person looked, and that was the point, the person looked trustworthy. Trust me. But the appearance and the character, the person behind the persona, was different. And so someone can sound trustworthy but still be manipulative. They can appear confident, like this person was, and they're dishonest. They can talk about loyalty, and they will betray you behind closed doors. The problem is that society rewards performance. Well, let's see. I guess it would be. They reward the performance of character more than the practice of character. There's a little distinction. That's why it took me a minute to kind of rethink that I wrote that down right. There's the performance of character. I'm performing an act versus the practice of it in our daily lives. I could step up to the plate if I'm knocking on your door trying to solicit something from you, if I'm making a presentation to you, if I'm the great and powerful Oz. Now I have to make my presentation, but behind the scene, I'm not practicing that character. So the character behind the scene is more important than the image, and that's where we have the confusion, which leads to one of the biggest problems that we face. A person can build up a reputation faster than they can build up integrity, but eventually the truth catches up. So a personal example might be a person could say, I'll always be there for you. But when they're actually needed, they disappear. They might say, how many of you have heard this? Trust me. But then they go and gossip behind your back. They may say, I'm loyal, but they only stay loyal when it benefits them, right? That's an image without integrity. Well, what about societal examples? Leaders, influencers, companies, institutions spend an enormous amount of energy protecting their public perception, right? They hire public relations teams, craft statements, manage optics to control the narrative. It's always controlling the narrative, isn't it? But people are no longer satisfied with polished language anymore. They want proof. And when image becomes more important than the truth and trust begin to collapse. So the question is not, do people think I'm trustworthy? The deeper question should be, am I trustworthy when no one is watching? Can you answer that question? Are you trustworthy when no one is watching? Because trustworthiness is not what you perform in public, but it's what you do and practice in private. The second part, or the second biggest problem, so the first one was confusing image with integrity. The second is breaking your word too easily. Again, pop culture reference, Lucy and Charlie Brown. She's going to hold the football for Charlie Brown and promises this time she won't remove the ball. He goes to kick it and she always pulls it back and he goes flying in the air, right? All the time, all the time, all the time. Some people are like Lucy with that football. They keep saying, this time you can trust me. But their pattern says otherwise. So the point would be repeatedly broken promises become a pattern that people remember. So even if you take trustworthiness and everything we're talking about, just remember this, that your pattern is going to be remembered more than what you say. Oh, yeah, they always say that, but it's not going to happen. They always say that, but it's not going to happen. Maybe sometimes you see that with parents, right? Maybe you're in a split parent home. And maybe it's the dad. I'll pick on dads. Dad says, I'm going to come pick up the kids on Saturday. Come pick up the kids on Saturday. And they never do, never do, never do. Now their word is no longer worth anything, even though they do say they're going to be there, because the pattern isn't there. I guess maybe another pop culture reference could be Ross and Rachel, that whole we were on a break thing. I guess this was probably one of the most famous relationship arguments on TV, or maybe at least in sitcom history. Well, it wasn't just about the technical wording. I guess that's what the point of one side was, but it had to do with trust. It had to do with expectations, with loyalty, whether someone uses a loophole to justify betrayal. See, sometimes people will hide behind technicalities instead of asking the bigger question, did my actions protect trust or did it damage it? And so by being technically right, hey, good for you. But that doesn't make you trustworthy. So when people break their word too easily, promises are made, but they're not kept. Maybe promises are just made casually. Yeah, I promised to be there. But you really don't mean it. You're just saying that. Kind of like the whole, hey, how are you today? Do you really care how I am today? Or is it just, that's what we're saying as we pass down the hallway? I'm fine. Yeah, we don't really truly mean, hey, how are you? We're just like, it's like a greeting, right? Promises are just casually given out. Commitments are broken easily. And people say things without fully meaning them. I'll call you. I'll be there. I've got your back. You can count on me. I won't tell anyone. I'll change. I promise. I'll change. This was the last time ever. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. I got you. But then they do not follow through, do they? And over time, broken words becomes broken trust. Trust is built when words and actions match. Trust is damaged when words and actions are repeatedly separate. What you say is what you do. That's how you build trust. What you say is what you do. If it's anything different, trust will be broken and you are not a trustworthy person. And this happens because people are dishonest. Or bigger yet, maybe you don't want to be classified as dishonest. Okay, that's fair. You like to think of yourself as an honest person. I'll go with that. But maybe it's because you overpromise. Maybe that's an issue. You want to avoid conflicts, so you want to promise and promise and promise. You want to please people, really, is what it comes down to, right? That sounds dependable. And you think you're dependable, but you can't deliver on it. And that can damage trust. Do you overpromise? I think overpromise is something that we do sometimes to be polite, because I've talked about it before. We have a hard time saying no. No, I can't make it. No, I'm unavailable. No, I've already got a prior commitment. No, I can't do that. No, I'm not available at this time, but perhaps maybe another time. We don't want to say no because we are ingrained with the idea that no is a bad thing. And so we commit and we overpromise. And that's still a problem because our word is being broken. And so overpromised or overpromising can be just as bad. If you get anything out of it today, when you listen, remember this. A person does not have to be malicious to become unreliable. They only have to be consistently careless with their commitments. A person does not have to be malicious to become unreliable. They only have to be consistently careless with their commitments. Are you careless with your commitments? Parents, It's hard, tough job. Promising to spend time with a kid, right? But then we always cancel. That song, Cats in the Cradle. Promising, never fulfills. And then when the kid grows up, the dad's reaching out and the kid promises, but turned out to be just like his dad. Says we'll get together. Says we'll get together real soon. We'll do it again real soon. Never happens. A friend says they'll show up, but rarely does. A leader tells the team one thing, but does another. And then eventually people stop believing what you say. And it doesn't happen. Like, people will stop believing what you say, but it's not necessarily because they're bitter. So you can't put it back on them. It's because the pattern that you have presented to them over and over and over has taught them not to trust. Just like Lucy with the football. Football's down. The pattern should tell Charlie Brown, and yes, it's a cartoon, but should tell Charlie Brown she's going to pull it. And you can go flying just like before. Can't trust her. So trustworthy people understand that their words have weight. Trustworthy people do not use promises as emotional decorations. They do not make commitments just to sound good. Do you do that? And then they understand that every kept word, if you keep your word, you build trust. That's what it comes down to. Pattern of behavior matches what you say. Every kept word builds trust. Broken word withdraws from that account. I'm guilty sometimes of that, where I'm so busy that I overcommit or overpromise. It's not intentional, but sometimes it just happens. Or I forget I already had something and I'm in a dilemma. And I got to call the person, said, I committed to this prior to my commitment to that, and I got to go to this over that. I'm so sorry. It doesn't matter. That trust is broken, or that damage is done, or whatever you want to insert in there. And it's hard to do. But it's something we have to be aware of. Because even if they say that's okay, it's really not. It shouldn't be from your standards. It shouldn't be from my standards. It's okay. No, it's not. It's not okay by my standards. I failed you. But then we have to build that trust back up again. The third problem is we hide the truth instead of owning it, right? You think about Pinocchio. Again, another old school pop culture. Wouldn't it be classic if everybody who lied, their nose grew? Man, wouldn't Kleenex make a killing? But every time he lied, the nose grew. The lie became visible. That'd be perfect, right? It'd be easy to see who's lying. But in real life, these lies grow quietly until trust finally collapses. Your lies may be hidden for a while, but there's always going to be a consequence, and someone is always going to find out. So hiding the truth instead of owning it is the third major problem with trustworthiness. The refusal to be honest when honesty is uncomfortable. Many people are not honest because honesty will cost you something. It may cost you your pride. It may cost you your status, maybe your comfort, maybe control over something or someone. Not that you're controlling like a Svengali, but it might cost you something. Maybe control over a team as if you're a coach. It may require an apology. Apology? What's that? So instead of telling the truth, people hide it. We soften it, dismiss it, twist it, deny it, delay it. That's not what I meant. How many times do we see that on TV, especially politicians? They'll say something, right? And in fact, this whole thing right here, you can just put it on Capitol Hill, and you'll see pretty much every one of those people up there will fail this. But you'll see, no, that's not what I meant. I didn't really mean that. Well, that's what you said. You didn't mean it. Why did you say it? You misunderstood me. No, I didn't. You said it. They were your words. It wasn't a big deal. Well, it was to me. I didn't think it mattered. Well, it did. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Dumbest excuse ever. I use it, you use it, everybody uses it, but it is dumbest excuse ever. And another big one, it's not my fault. Not my fault you did that. It's not my fault this happened. It's not my fault the light turned red. And yet, even though sometimes those things might be true, we take it for granted. We overutilize them. They become our escape route. And we no longer have accountability because we can break from accountability through the fire exit of excuses of any one of those things that I just mentioned. And even a half-truth may feel safer than a lie, but it still damages trust. Now, I'm going to pause for a second because the only time, guys, that it's probably okay to not tell the truth is when your significant other comes to you and say, do these jeans make me look fat? How do you like my new hairstyle? Well, maybe you don't like it, and maybe they do look a little pudgy on you. All you say is, I know nothing. I'm blinded by your beauty. Problem solved. It's true. I would imagine your significant other is beautiful. That's all you see is their beauty, and you're off the hook. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. So if you are hiding the truth, not owning up to it, if you're withholding important information, that's all can be a form of deception. There's a difference between keeping your word, hey, don't tell anybody, and then someone approaches you and say, hey, do you know about this? And you're like, no, I don't, because you promised to keep your word over here. So you have to be careful when it comes to withholding information, what that actually entails. But if someone comes to you and asks you something, hey, are you responsible for this report that went out that cost us a contract? Do you blame others or do you take responsibility? Leaving out details to control someone's reaction can be dishonest, almost like a little white lie. Telling only someone part of the story makes you look good, even if it's not true. It's kind of like that old CIA lie, right? Lying for the greater good. But trust requires transparency, especially when truth is inconvenient. Someone hurts another person but refuses to admit it. Instead of saying, I'm wrong, I should not have done that. I should not have done that. They say, well, you hurt me too. You're too sensitive. Oh, I guess I'm just a terrible person. Relationships are like that, right? We say that in relationships a lot, but that's not accountability. That's called deflection. Trust grows when people can own the truth without turning it into a battle. And that's what we need to do. We need to own the truth so it doesn't become a battle. So trustworthy people do not only tell the truth when it's easy, they tell the truth when it's hard. They tell the truth when it humbles them. They tell the truth when it requires correction. And they tell the truth when it forces them to face consequences. Ouch. And that's what separates reputation management from real trustworthiness. I got to keep my reputation, so I'm just going to say what I need to say. But I don't really mean it, but I'm going to say it because I got an image to protect. I got a reputation to protect. No, trustworthiness is real, genuine, and honest. The fourth area is avoiding accountability. You think about all those celebrity, apologies that are just kind of like a public apology statements, maybe. They're vague, they're predictable, they're passive. I'm sorry if anyone was offended. They don't really care. Or maybe Tony Stark in Iron Man. That character arc begins with arrogance and weapons manufacturing, but then he's forced to face the consequences of what his company created. And then the transformation begins when he takes total responsibility. Then what happens? Well, it becomes heroic, right? Because he's flawless. He's finally stopped running from responsibility. So owning the damage is the first step towards becoming trustworthy. If you can own the damage, you can become heroic. A real apology owns the action, not just the reaction or the random interaction. So avoiding accountability. Trustworthiness cannot exist without accountability. We must be accountable to our actions, to what we say, what we do. Accountability means you're willing to answer for your actions. You're willing to repair any harm you have done, to accept correction, and to change your behavior. And one of the biggest problems we have today is that too many people want trust without that accountability. No one wants to repair harm these days. Nobody wants to accept correction. Are you crazy? And changing our behavior? Yeah, good luck with that. But this is what they want instead. They want forgiveness without confession. They want, hey, just forgive me. Okay, yeah, forgive me. Yeah, whatever. Without really saying, hey, I'm sorry, this is what I did. I know it hurt you. I apologize. I'm going to change my behavior. But they want that forgiveness without confession. They want loyalty without responsibility. They want authority without correction. They want influence without consequences. They want people to just move on without even ever addressing whatever happened. And again, that does not rebuild trust. That only pressures people to pretend that maybe something didn't happen, or pretend it's not as bad as it was, or just pretend. And accountability is not the same as shame. You got to keep that in mind too. Some people resist accountability because they think that it is mean. How can I put it this way? Let's see. They resist accountability because they feel, that's the word, they feel like they're being attacked. So if I resist accountability, then I feel like I'm being attacked. I feel like I'm being humiliated. And I feel like I'm being condemned because you're telling me what's up. When I, in fact, was the one that was in the wrong. But healthy accountability is not destroying. It's like the Bible says, iron sharpens iron, like one man sharpens another. It takes us to hack off the bad so the good can grow, right? Something about chaff and wheat. It's about restoring what was damaged if we take accountability. Accountability says you are responsible for what you did, and now you have the opportunity to make it right. Own up to it. If you want to build character, taking accountability is the biggest way to build character and probably earn credibility. Trust might be take a little longer, but people will be like, wow, that person took credit for, or took responsibility. God give him a lot of credit for that. Without accountability, trust can't heal. Have you been in that situation where something happens, maybe a friend or someone betrays you, betrays your confidence, and then says, why are you still bringing that up? To deflect, right? They never apologized. They've never changed, never acknowledged the damage that they did to you or other people. They just want that access restored. They want things normal again without any responsibility, without any accountability. That's entitlement, by the way, not trustworthiness. So when institutions investigate themselves, how often do we see that, right? Or people, companies, whatever, excuse their own faults, their own failures. They're going to protect insiders. Wow, do we see that a lot on Capitol Hill? Maybe they're going to punish whistleblowers. Public trust collapses. People begin to believe that accountability is only for the powerless. So the core issue here is that trustworthy people do not run from accountability. They understand that accountability is not the enemy of trust. Accountability is the foundation of trust. Accountability is not the enemy of trust. Accountability is the foundation of trust. And when a person cannot be corrected, then they cannot fully be trusted. The fifth area is being inconsistent. Perhaps you look at Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. Every May the 4th be with you, Star Wars. Anakin begins as someone people believe in, but they fear. And for Anakin Skywalker, fear and pride and resentment and hunger for control slowly turn him into Darth Vader. Anakin did not become Darth Vader in one single moment. It was a pattern of choices. And that is how trust is often lost, through a pattern of choices. Not all at once, but decision by decision. And inconsistency over time can become a complete character collapse. Little by little, little by little, little by little. People can be inconsistent, emotionally inconsistent. Some people are unpredictable emotionally. You never know which version you're going to get. They may be warm one moment, but then maybe cold the next. Encouraging one day, harsh the next. Consistency is one of the strongest signs, though, of trustworthiness. Trust, again, is built through patterns, not one impressive moment, not through one apology, not through one emotional speech, not through one good day, but through patterns. People become trustworthy when their behavior is stable enough so that others know what to expect from them. A person who is kind one day and cruel the next day, they become hard to trust. A leader who changes standards depending on who's involved becomes hard to trust, and so on. And you can have that with moral inconsistency. They believe in honesty until honesty costs them. They believe in loyalty until loyalty costs them. They believe in fairness until fairness costs them and benefits somebody else. That's inconsistent, right? So consistency does not mean perfection, though. It just means being consistent. Consistent pattern of behavior. Trustworthy people will still make mistakes, but their overall pattern is dependable. They're not constantly forcing people to wonder, which version of you am I getting today? And then the final area is betraying trust for personal gain. Maybe like the Lion King and Scar betraying Mustafa. Scar pretends to be family, but he really isn't, right? He betrays his own brother for power. Or did you watch Games of Thrones? Maybe the Red Wedding? I guess it's one of the most famous betrayal scenes in modern television. We go from, but we were on a break, to the Red Wedding. It's shocking because hospitality, alliance, and trust are turned into a trap. It hits hard because it violates the basic expectations of trust. Game of Thrones, Red Wedding. People enter the room believing there were rules, relationships, and agreements, but then betrayal walked in wearing a smile. Betrayal is devastating because it weaponizes trust. So people betray trust for personal gain. The deepest trust problem is betrayal. Betrayal happens when someone uses trust as an opportunity for selfish gain. They have access, they abuse it. They have information, they expose it. They had power, they use it for themselves. They had influence, they manipulate others. They have responsibility, they exploit it. Betrayal hurts so deeply because trust requires vulnerability. To trust someone means you have given them access to something valuable, and that is your heart, maybe your confidence, your time, your loyalty, maybe your money, perhaps your future. Maybe it's just your story, maybe some weaknesses, or your hope. And when that gets misused and they misuse that access, the wounds run deep. And it could be something, like sharing information with a friend and they go and repeat it to somebody else. Maybe a business partner takes advantage of an agreement. Maybe a leader uses people instead of serving them. A coach humiliates players instead of developing them. That's a big one. A pastor exploits spiritual authority. A public figure says one thing while secretly doing another. Eric Swalwell. And in each case, damage is not just the action, it's the betrayal of trust. Betrayal changes people. People become guarded. They may say, I'm never trusting anyone again. Oh, I should have known better. I feel stupid for believing them. We hear that all the time, right? I don't know who to trust anymore. That's why betrayal can be so destructive. Doesn't only damage the one relationship, but it can damage a person's ability to trust in future relationships. Do you want to be responsible for that? Betrayal teaches people to protect themselves. And sometimes that protection is necessary, but sometimes it might not be, and yet we still do that. However, if betrayal never is healed, it turns into permanent suspicion. And that can be very difficult for the person to deal with if it's a permanent not trusting. So trustworthy people do not use other people. They do not exploit vulnerabilities. They do not treat access as opportunity for advantage. And they understand that trust is a responsibility, not a weapon. So when you think back to that trustworthy test, and we go over some of this other stuff here, how are you thinking? How trustworthy are you? Because again, confusing image with integrity. People break their word too easily. People hide the truth instead of owning it. People betray trust for personal gain. People avoid accountability. And people are inconsistent. Those are the 6 biggest areas of struggle we have in society today when it comes to trustworthiness. But trustworthiness can be rebuilt. How so, you might ask? Well, it can be rebuilt, but not through words alone. It requires changed behavior over time. To build trust, a person must be willing to say, I was wrong. I understand why that hurt you. To rebuild trust, a person must be willing to say, I'm not asking you to trust me immediately. I will show you you can trust me again through consistent action. A person that wants to rebuild trust will be willing to say, I accept accountability. I will not pressure you to heal on my timeline. I'll wait for your timeline. And that is mature trustworthiness. You see, rebuilding trust means that the person who broke it does not get to demand instant restoration. You're not in control. They must demonstrate reliability long enough for that wounded person to feel safe again. Think of battered puppy syndrome. It takes a while for a dog that's been abused to trust anybody else to come near them, to hold them, to pet them. Here's some practical signs for a trustworthy person in case you want to check them out. A trustworthy person will keep their word. They'll tell the truth even when uncomfortable. They'll own mistakes without excuses. They don't gossip over private information. They treat people consistently. They accept correction. They do not manipulate others. They do what is right when no one is watching, and they use power responsibly. They also do not make promises casually. They don't overpromise. They respect boundaries, and they apologize with changed behavior. Well, how about an untrustworthy person? What can you look for? Well, they say the right things, but they don't follow through. They blame others for their actions. They change their story to avoid consequences. They use charm to avoid accountability. They gossip about others who trusted them. They apologize but never change. They demand trust instead of earning it. They use people for personal gain. They act differently depending upon who's watching. They make others feel guilty for having boundaries. and they protect their image more than the truth. So which one are you? Are you someone that keeps your word? Or do you say the right things but don't follow through? Do you tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable? Or do you blame others for your actions? Do you own mistakes without excuses? Or do you use charm to avoid accountability? Do you keep other people's private information private, or you gossip about them? Do you treat people consistently, or do you act differently depending upon who they are? Do you use them for personal gain? Do you accept correction, or do you apologize and never change? Do you manipulate others, or do you treat everybody the same? Do you do what is right when no one is watching? And that's the big one. Are you more interested in your image than the truth? So as we conclude things up, trustworthiness is one of the most valuable forms of character because it affects everything. Without trust, love becomes guarded. Leadership becomes suspicious. Without trust, family becomes tense. Society becomes divided. Without trust, faith communities become wounded. Teams become dysfunctional. But where trustworthiness exists, people feel safe. They communicate more honestly. They cooperate more freely. They forgive more deeply. Honestly, freely, deeply. Communicate honestly, cooperate freely, forgive deeply. They build stronger relationships. The real question is not just who can I trust? You ready for this? The real question is not just who can I trust? The deeper question is, can I be trusted? The real question is not who can I trust? The deeper question is, can I be trusted? Because the healing of trust in society does not begin with everyone else becoming trustworthy. It begins with each person choosing to become someone whose words, actions, character, and commitments can be counted on. This is Two Steps Ahead podcast, encouraging you to take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. Hey, check out our website, radiowarp.com. That's radio, W-A-R-P, radiowarp.com. You can click on the Two Steps Ahead podcast logo and check out all of our shows, our video shows. We have a video portion and we have an audio as well. But you click on the Two Steps Ahead podcast logo, all of our shows pop up there in video form. You can click on the banner that goes across the page. And if you click on that green banner, it takes you to our Podbean account, which hosts our audio podcasts. So if you can't sit and watch it, you can put it on audio and take it with you on the go. You can listen anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartMedia. You can, hey Siri, hey Google, hey Alexa, play TWO, Two Steps Ahead podcast, and our podcast pops up. We're on YouTube, Rumble, so we're pretty easy to find. Just do an internet search of TWO, Two Steps Ahead podcast, and we pop up. You can email the show at twostepsaheadpodcast@gmail.com. And we're on all the social media sites from Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and so on. So again, we're pretty easy to find. And I encourage you to reach out if you need to. Email, DM, whatever it is, reach out. And if I can't help you, I will definitely find somebody that can help you. But you do not have to go it alone, and you do not have to feel lonely. Just go ahead and reach out. RadioWarp.com is the website. Trustworthiness. Is that you? Do you ask yourself, who can I trust? Or do you ask, can I be trusted? Two Steps Ahead podcast, encouraging you, take your passion, make it happen, let yourself be great. I'm Son Edom. Hey, thanks for listening. Do tell a friend. Until next time, God bless.